Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. It's Shirley with Spirit of Matter. And this episode is actually about curses, spells, and should you worry about curses, spells, or even psychic attacks sent towards you. I'm going to try to cover as much ground as I can. Um, And so, yeah, first of all, this is Jupiter night, soul hour, with both the ascendant in midheaven ruled by Jupiter, Jupiter in the fourth house, 12 degrees Gemini, and soul is applying to oppose Pluto from Cancer. So, moon is in Aquarius, in the 12th house, which represents hidden enemies, curses, dreams, or the way somebody would try to contact you when you're not physically present. And so, calling up upon Andromeda, which represents freedom fighters and the release from torture, from hostage situations, from kidnapping, and reconciliation, also between families and between lovers and great love. And calling on Procyon, which is the sweetener of the message, okay, for to sweeten the message. Um, Also appropriate would be to call on Aldebaran, which is Archangel Michael, and the mint essential oil, and upon Christ consciousness to bring in the message correctly and efficiently for you. So, first of all, is the question I want to tell you a story. And the story goes like this: two stories. One, there was a very likely a person in the distant family that was coming from Bulgaria. And that person may have been a bit envious of me as a child or my parent for having a child or for the relative freedom under which I was grown. And perhaps they knew not a better way and may have gone through certain measures to, send bad energy. I did not know of anything like that. And I couldn't stop paying attention that when I was learning astrology, aromatherapy, I couldn't stop getting good energy from Bulgaria. I had my very best friend who had the same birthday as a family member, not the same family member, and she was from Bulgaria, and I could not stop getting good things from Bulgaria. So, for that story, I want you to know and understand that. And by the way, my family is origin both Judaism and Christianity and atheism. Since young child, I felt very big relation to Christ consciousness. I didn't know to name it that way, but I felt big relation to that. And so um, even the astrologers that I would listen to, they were very infused with Christ consciousness. You can hear it through their energy. And so what I want to tell you with this story is that, first of all, people are human and they have all kinds of feelings and they have all kinds of beliefs and all kinds of practices which can be outdated. But if you're worried about yourself or your child or anybody, know that the children are protected. For the most cases, the children are protected. It's not that easy to curse your family, to curse your lineage, as you may think that it is. I'm not saying that there are not people affected, or this is not victim blaming, or um, kind of. And I'm talking about satanic abuse in my channel, okay? But also know that there is protection, and you will see how what people curse for you or your child will turn into blessings. And so instead of trauma or thinking bad thoughts, they will have only good things coming from that place. Okay? So this is one thing, so you will not be so afraid of does somebody cast a curse on my family, does somebody this, does somebody that. It might not even affect your life as much as you think. Okay? It doesn't mean that there isn't curse or that you shouldn't tend to it, but more that there is a lot of protection, and what's not meant for you is not going to throw away your life or throw away your chart so easily. Okay, and I want to tell you another story. When I was in 2016, 2017, I was writing a satire that was basically discussing the cult, and I didn't know to name the cult, but I noticed there is kind of like a cult practice, kind of like a secret society that operates. I didn't know if it was Mason or not, that operates in the army, in the academia, in the political arena. And I said, well, instead of just Me Too or harassment, I'll talk about what programming bothers me, and those techniques of a psychic control or attempt to mind control. All these things that are more than somebody casting a curse, or more than somebody even one time psychically attack. It's really attempting and paying a lot, really targeting an individual, but they didn't understand that this is what it is, because why would they do that to me, right? But a part of my satire was wrote the war in peace, or the war against peace. Okay, יוזמה למלחמה בשלום. And I didn't know that I was channeling exactly what's happening. I was just frustrated from being peace activist, and like really frustrated seeing, kind of like one voice turning to V15 and all that. And that was just like, it's so weird. Everything is upside down. And I had no idea that that was good enough to to upset, because I was in the way, okay, of some wars. And so the effort went so long as if when I went to see like psychologists to heal, then he was targeting me because it was all a part of these secret societies, okay? And so when I was trying to heal myself, there's all these junctures stood these things. And mind you, the secret societies are international. And so I didn't get of what it is, but I just worked on myself, on boundaries, learned what is psychic attack, learned how to set a boundary, return to sender, work with talismans, refresh my body mind perception, okay, all of these things. And so what happened is that whatever was sent my way again was turned into a blessing, okay? Many things, like they tried to play on the number 7, as they did for 7 October and so on, because in my satire I took from Edith Chumash to old satire that was in Israel, okay, and they used the number 7, and I just didn't think. I was living in a city called Beersheba, which is the 7 wells, and I was just, I wasn't thinking. I didn't know what it means. Okay, I didn't know about any of these things, and so they would try to kind of set me up with a person that I only learned about after their death, and they would bring the number 7. It was my 7th year, which is very karmic year, and the midheaven is on 7 degree, and this is degree of luxury. Okay, this is degree of wealth, but also justice. And with the association of 7 to Al-Qaeda is protection from assassination. But they were trying to assassinate me, or to cause me to be poor, or to cause me to be in slavery. And for the person that they tried to set me up, because when he was alive, perhaps he was involved in things that, for the part of the cult of what they extort people to do. But he was also freedom fighter and fighter for justice. So, but when they cross over, it's a different energy. Okay, so what the curse became a blessing, and so that was not working very well. because I got back to a better home. I was okay that I was not housed in Netherlands, because that would be my ruler of my fourth house in the 11th and 22nd degree Scorpio. That would mean that my house is publicly known for murder or assassination. And they did try to house me with somebody who was a serial killer. Okay, and I don't judge, of course. People have different circumstances, but you get okay. And maybe they were trying to assassinate him because my Mars is 22 degrees retrograde, so they thought maybe that I will assassinate him for them. But I don't know, like, how far do they know astrology, or how far did they, practice this? But all these courses turned into blessings. And then, of course, at the solar eclipse, they were trying to do the black sun rituals, which means to sacrifice a person. And I can't tell too many details about that, but I can for sure tell you that it kind of backfired. And this one is on an international level, backfired. Okay, it kind of on an international level, it kind of backfired. Um, and so again, I don't know how far they went or how much for these people, because what's not meant for us is not going to meet us that easily. And when you're a pre-eclipse child, this is even more so. This is why also they can't control Trump. And I'm not in Trump's political opinions or anything like that, but he's an eclipse child. So they tried the black sun ritual on him. They tried this, they tried that, and I'm like, yeah, you tried to control of something that I myself surrendered, and that the same thing happened to another eclipse child who's not at all for not at all the same life path or the same political opinions, but I just identified what is done. And so I began to identify of what is done on political assassinations, and that, of course, is a glimpse to how the world is run. Because it's like, oh, I see that symbolism here, I see that symbolism here. And now they're like, let's just say certain things backfired on a really international level here. So what I want to tell you is that even when people do, even cults, when they do black sun rituals, when they do this, when they do that, when your heart is, if you are in any way related to Christ consciousness or with Christ consciousness, or when your heart is setting the intention, okay, to do in favor of yourself and humanity in the best way you can, there just, as much as it's upon your path, informations come to you and think. It doesn't mean that there are no hardships or challenges upon your path. Okay, it's not easy going through what I went through, and I hear stories of survivors of SRA, which is okay. And a lot of the people who participated in this are survivors of SRA that are forced to perpetuate and so on. So to tackle it from the core. So what the second story is, that even in those cases where there is targeting of individual, there is gathering of groups to try to hurt or assassinate somebody, spiritually or not, still you will see that the informations do come to you, whether it's a song that you hear, whether it's this, whether it's that. And in many cases, the more they try to knock you down to size, the more, let's say somebody tries to knock your second house down to size, okay? What you will get is more information on wealth. For example, for me, with my business, I got information about how all of our economy ran on child trafficking, child trade. And I put a halt to, and I said, okay, let's tend to that. And so instead of, receiving just hardships, or why is my business not running, or why is this, or why is that, I'm like, okay, let's tend to the underlying cause for all of this, which is the thing that maybe some of them were the most scared for me to tend to. Or, and some of them could be happy that I'm tending to it because they would be scared to tend to that. And somebody does that, which would be, on the long run, it will be benefiting all of us. On the short run, of course, it creates crisis. Um, so here is also for you to understand that even in those cases where you do experience the challenges of these things, when you begin to tend to that, the information does come to you. I'm not saying it's easy path, but the information does come to you, and you do make a change, and you do find your way. And if you listen to other survivors, you will find that there are many, many ways, and thereby you can be of inspiration and of help to other people that are on your path. And you would be surprised who are the people. You would be surprised whether it's people of no social ranking or whether it's people that are rising up and up. You would really be surprised who you meet along your path, and it will really change your view on people when you go like down that rabbit hole. Okay, so now that we got that, now that we understand that it's not so easy to curse you as you think, it's not so easy to assassinate you or to target you as you think, because the informations come to you. I hope that you understand that this situation is basically where a lot of mindsets need to gather up, and the understanding that those things backfire. You learn to use your own warrior spirit, okay? Because in those certain cases, you would, okay? And also, for sometimes you would receive people who are assisting you in that, whether in the spirit realm or actual people. I remember in 2007, I was working for some hotel at the Dead Sea, and there was one of the people who were, fixing the rooms and so on, and we would sit to eat together, and she was a witch, okay, Palestinian witch, and she had a hard time. Somebody was trying to do her mind control, and we could understand each other because I just escaped. Somebody was trying to make music and was doing that, whether, I don't know why, but that's what they were doing. Okay, it backfired on them very hard because I didn't know what it is, and I tried to go to therapy and they didn't know what it is. And then just one guy told me, I used to treat that girls that way until some woman was so crazy that she made my life hell. And so I said, okay, it's not about revenge if I don't want other people to be injured in this way. And psychologists don't know, and they don't know what this man, he probably knows something. Okay, so I knew what she was going through in a bit, and I guess I was that person that could help her and could listen to her at that time. And so I got to her heart, and so she decided she's going to remove every curse away from me. I don't want you to even begin to imagine what happened when my psychologist okay, I don't want you to even begin to. It was so much so that I thought, oh, maybe I'm suffering some karma for what she did or what the backfire, okay? Because it was like, that was, and so you understand that there are people that are still there and still kind of working in your favor and assisting you to lift off for what the veil, to lift off for the course, to lift off these things that you don't even know are affecting your life. And sometimes it's not about going to, even astrologers or healers or shamans say, am I cursed? Am I this? Am I that? But yes, to tend to your life and to unblock your own abundance and to tend to the things, then whether it's coming from outside forces or like your own chart that you remedy, and their astrology reading with remediation can be good. That is, for most cases, this is the path to go. Okay, when you begin to work with talismans, Um, there are shielding, protecting talismans. There are also wealth talismans. And look, today I called on Andromeda and I called on Procyon. Okay, but none of them was like a completely like backfiring. And I called on Aldebaran, which is Archangel Michael. Um, and so I hope that this little kind of different episode tackles an issue that I see a lot of people struggle with. And I didn't want to give the simplistic answer because the more people are having trauma and there are attempts to traumatize the society all the time so that they won't tend to expandable children. But what the answer is, regardless, some people say, oh, I should get stronger in my religion, I should this, I should that. You should tend to expandable children, whether it's by prayer, whether it's by ritual, whether it's in whichever practice, in whichever position, whichever power you have, is what you should do. And this is across the board. Because if, let's say, even Masons, okay, they're so targeted, Masons, Illuminati, but they just took the practices from indigenous societies and cultivated them into Abrahamic religions and to Hinduism and so on. And so, just as societies need to grow, tribes need to grow, also secret societies need to grow. And the structure of the pyramid is very strong structure, but the difficulty is change because it's such a stable structure. And yet some things need to change. Abolishing human sacrifice is appropriate. Respect and respect to all genders, okay, is appropriate. Abolishing slavery mindset. Yes, humans are not slaves to one another. This is appropriate. Okay, it sounds weird, but the pyramid structure, how come? You can shift the pyramid. Is actually what Pluto in Capricorn is coming to do, and also Pluto in Aquarius, which is associated with cults and with secret societies. And so the problem is not the society or the Mason or Christianity or indigenous society, but the practices. This should be refreshed and abolished all across the board so that, we are in a better place and we are ready for Age of Aquarius. The process of this is called Kali Yuga. Yes, the process of this where everything is exposed is called Kali Yuga because Kali is destroyer of what these practices are. And it doesn't look good. Okay? But for the long run, is more like Christ consciousness, is more like the golden ages, where people get that. And remember, if you think golden ages is a faraway subject, something that reminds us of golden ages is before the Second World War, women could not only vote, but they could not have a bank account, they could not have their own property, their own assets for the most part. And so, even if they were free women. And so, after the Second World War, we see that this completely changed. But it took 2 generations of men to die, which is unfortunate and useless. We could achieve all of that with 0 casualties. And this is the 0 we need to keep in mind, okay? Because we could achieve all of that. We could achieve a willing consent, or we could achieve abolishing human sacrifice with 0 casualties. And this is something we kind of need to keep in mind, to keep that mindset in mind. Because what we see in the world is not about vengeance, it's about the natural result of people normalizing child trafficking, child trade, the normalizing going to make an appointment with the bank. They're normalizing this, they're normalizing that. And so when we normalize, then we normalize to not being able to afford housing. For no reason, okay? Or we normalizing war and war crimes. No reason to. So this is when it comes to courses, but also when it comes to things that are a bit worse. Know that yet again, it's not downplaying the difficulty or the challenges, but more understanding just a lot is going for you, and essentially you're even destined to prevail, and you're even destined to embark into the golden ages. Us living on the planets right now, we are ushering the world throughout the Kali Yuga to the golden ages. That means we are bringing the golden ages into our physical incarnation, and we're acting as golden ages. We're acting in alignment with what we call Christ consciousness. Or if you're atheist, we're acting like normal human beings. Okay? It's just very simple. No spiritual mumbo jumbo. We just act normal. We just courteous to each other and to ourselves. That's another way to see it, and it's an okay way to see it. Okay, the only thing is that that accommodating for what people call psychic attack, but also channeling for the beauty of spirit and matter, or you could want to call it energy. It's another way to express this. Doesn't have to stand underneath any pantheon or so on. It's just another way to tell a story and to access this information in a way that's memorable and means more or less for some, but it doesn't change for your value as human being. Okay, freedom often from religion. So yes, I'll see you in another video, and I hope you enjoyed this little one. You got a little bit more clarity on the topic of how come some people say, oh, that never affects me, or these courses, these things, they never affect me. Of course, if people traumatize, then these things tend to affect more, which is why we ground and why we also make changes in the world. Okay, stand in our truth and so on. So yeah, thank you for watching.